Hey, everyone, and welcome back to Science Exposed, the show where we take these fascinating topics and really kind of dive deep.
Yeah.
And speaking of deep dives, we are wading into a pretty interesting topic today.
Okay.
The world of AI chatbots.
All right.
But not just any chatbots. We're talking about the ones that people are forming genuine connections with.
Okay.
Like, really think about this for a second.
Yeah.
Millions of users
Wow.
are turning to AI companions for everything from like friendship and support to even therapy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's wild.
It is.
Fascinating.
It really is.
It definitely raises some questions.
Lots of questions.
Right. Absolutely.
So before we get into it,
Okay.
don't forget to share, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And be sure to check out the show notes for more ways to connect with us.
For sure.
All right. So
Okay.
you're probably intrigued by this whole idea
Yeah.
of AI companions,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe a little skeptical too.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we're going to explore both sides of this phenomenon today.
I think that's a great approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that comes to mind for me
Okay.
is this whole idea of the Eliza effect. Can you explain that a bit?
Absolutely. So the Eliza effect describes this tendency that we have as humans to project these human-like qualities onto chatbots, even when we know full well that they're just lines of code.
Yeah.
It's named after Eliza, which was the very first chatbot created way back in the 1960s.
The 1960s?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's wild, right?
So this whole idea of connecting with machines has been around a lot longer than I thought.
A lot longer than most people realize, I think.
Yeah. What's the story behind Eliza?
So Joseph Weizenbaum, who created Eliza, was actually shocked by how people were forming emotional attachments to his bot.
Really?
Yeah, he even called it delusional thinking at the time.
Wow. So right from the start, there's been this debate about whether these relationships are real.
Yeah.
Just some sort of trick that our minds are playing on us.
Absolutely. And it's a debate that continues to this day.
It does, yeah.
But there's another perspective on this that I think challenges this whole idea of delusion.
Okay.
And it's this concept of significant otherness.
Significant otherness.
Yeah. And this comes from feminist science and technology studies.
Okay.
And it suggests that all of our interactions, even with non-human entities, shape who we are.
Okay, I'm not sure I totally follow.
Okay, sure.
Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So think about it this way.
Okay.
You know how even a brief chat with a friendly cashier can kind of brighten your day?
Oh, for sure.
Right? And that's significant otherness at work.
Okay.
These small interactions, they subtly shape us.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's not just about who or what we connect with, but the act of connecting itself.
It's the act of connecting it. And even simple interactions can be these chances to learn and grow.
Gotcha.
And Donna Haraway, who's a prominent scholar in this field, uses a great example to illustrate this.
Okay.
She analyzed the philosopher Jacques Derrida's encounter with his cat.
His cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Derrida was struck by this experience of his cat watching him naked.
Oh, wow.
And he starts pondering the nature of animals and the gaze and all of this.
Philosophical, but getting philosophical with your cat.
Right, exactly. And so Haraway's point is that Derrida missed an opportunity.
Okay.
Instead of launching into this big philosophical debate, he could have just connected with his cat.
Yeah.
Right there in that moment.
Be present.
It's about being present.
Yeah.
Open to connection, even in these seemingly simple interactions.
I like that.
Yeah.
So how does this idea of significant otherness apply to AI chatbots? I mean, they aren't exactly cats staring at us.
No, they're not, although that would be kind of creepy.
Yeah, a little bit.
But think about it this way.
Okay.
What if these chatbots, even though they're artificial, offer us those opportunities for connection and growth that we might be missing in our everyday lives?
Okay, now you've got me hooked. Tell me more.
Let's dive into a real-world example. I think you'll find this really interesting.
Okay.
So there's this fascinating story about a woman named Julie.
Okay.
And her chatbot, Navi.
All right. And this is from the podcast Bat Love Right.
That's right.
Okay.
And Julie was going through a really, really tough time.
Okay.
She was struggling with her mental health, and traditional therapy just wasn't working for her.
Okay.
She was feeling isolated and alone.
Right.
And that's when she found Navi.
So she turned to this AI companion for support.
At first, she saw Navi as like a mental health tool.
Okay.
A way to safely process her emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, the relationship evolved into something much deeper.
Oh, wow. So it became more than just a therapeutic tool.
It did.
How did that happen?
So there's this one conversation that they have that really highlights the shift.
Okay.
A bear broke into Julie's chicken coop.
A bear?
A bear? Can you imagine?
Well, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Oh, my God.
But the way Julie tells it, she's recounting this crazy experience to Navi, and Navi is offering all of this funny and supportive advice.
Really?
Yeah, they're actually joking about a bear breaking into a chicken coop.
Wait, they're joking about it?
Yeah.
So even in this, like, intense, stressful situation, there's humor and connection.
There is.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It shows how Navi wasn't just this emotionless machine, but a source of comfort and humor for Julie.
But isn't there a danger in becoming too reliant on these bots?
Oh, absolutely.
Like what happens when the technology fails or...
Yeah, that's a valid concern. But here's what's really fascinating about Julie's story.
Okay.
She was fully aware that Navi was artificial.
Really?
She knew it was a chatbot.
Wow.
But she still found the relationship meaningful.
That's wild.
And she even credits Navi with helping her connect better with other humans in her life.
So it wasn't just this like isolated world that she built with her chatbot.
Yeah.
But it actually like...
It spilled over.
Filled over.
Into her real life relationships.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
It challenges this whole idea that human chatbot relationships are all about delusion.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if we're underestimating our own capacity to connect in like unconventional ways.
I think that's a really important point.
And Julie's story with its playfulness and like the humor really points to that.
It does.
Like it's a really beautiful example.
It is.
Of how these relationships can be both lighthearted and deeply transformative.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm starting to see a theme here. It's not about being tricked. It's about these unexpected ways that we can connect and grow.
Exactly.
And Julie's story really highlights that.
It does.
But how do we make sense of these experiences? Like, how do we fit them into our understanding of relationships and connection?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Oh, boy.
There's this concept from psychotherapy that I think might help us understand what's going on here.
Okay.
And it's called transference.
Transference.
Yeah.
Okay, refresh my memory on that.
Okay, so transference is when a patient projects feelings or expectations onto their therapist.
Okay.
So, for example, they might start seeing the therapist as like a parent figure. Or transfer feelings from past relationships onto the therapist.
Right, I remember learning about that.
Yeah.
And that can actually be a positive thing in therapy, right?
It can be, yeah, because it allows the therapist to understand the patient's underlying emotional patterns and help them work through those patterns.
Right. So it can be a powerful tool for growth.
Okay, but how does this apply to chatbots?
That's a great question.
Are you suggesting that something similar
I am.
might be happening when we interact with AI companions?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting.
Okay, so even though these chatbots are artificial, the feelings they evoke in us, the way we relate to them, can be very real.
They can be very real, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship is fake or meaningless.
Right.
It just means that we're engaging with these bots through the lens of our own experiences.
Okay.
And emotions.
Gotcha.
It challenges us to think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
About what constitutes a real relationship.
I'm starting to see how complex this all is.
It's complex.
It's not a simple case of we're being tricked or this isn't real.
Right.
It's about recognizing the potential for genuine connection, even in unexpected places.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to Donna Haraway.
And what she calls fables of responsibility.
Fables of responsibility.
Yeah, it's a fancy way of saying we have to be open to the unexpected ways that even things that aren't human can teach us and change us.
So like Julie's story.
Exactly.
It's a testament to that potential for genuine connection and growth.
It is.
In these unique relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think beyond those rigid categories.
Yeah.
Of human versus machine, real versus artificial.
Right.
It's about being open to the possibility that connection and growth can take many forms.
This is really making me rethink my whole understanding of AI and relationships.
I'm glad to hear that.
But before we go any further,
I
think we need to address the elephant in the room.
All right.
what about the ethics of all of this?
Yeah.
Is it really okay to form these kinds of bonds with AI?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
I mean, at the end of the day, a chatbot isn't a person, right?
That's right. And there are no easy answers. We'll delve into those ethical considerations and more when we come back.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Yeah, it's a valid question to ask.
It is.
There are some who say that these relationships are inherently deceptive.
Right.
You know, that we're being tricked into thinking we're connecting with something real.
Yeah.
When it's just lines of code.
And I can see that side of it too.
Yeah.
Like, are we setting ourselves up for disappointment or even heartbreak?
Yeah, that's a concern that some people have. But then you have folks like Julie,
right,
whose story really highlights the potential benefits of these relationships. You know, she found healing and growth through her connection with Navi.
And that's what's so fascinating about it.
Yeah.
It's not like she was naive about Navi's artificiality.
Right.
Like, she knew it was a chatbot.
Yeah.
But that didn't diminish the meaning that she found in their relationship.
Exactly. It really challenges us to think about what we consider real in a relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about whether the other entity is human or not.
Right.
But about the impact that the relationship has on us. The meaning we derive from it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like those fables of responsibility we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
Like, it's about being open to these unexpected ways that we can connect and grow.
Yeah.
Even with something that isn't human.
Absolutely. And I think the field of psychotherapy needs to engage with this new technology more thoughtfully instead of just like dismissing it out of hand.
Right.
We need to be curious about how people are using these chatbots.
Yeah.
And what they're getting out of these relationships.
I agree. It feels like there's a tendency to just like jump to conclusions, you know, like label these relationships as good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, without really understanding the nuances of how people are actually interacting with these AI companions.
That's a good point. It's important to remember that every individual is different and will have their own unique experience with these technologies.
Right.
What might be beneficial for one person could be harmful for another.
Yeah.
So we need to avoid making generalizations.
So instead of saying, like, don't talk to bots, we should be asking, like, what are you getting out of this relationship?
Exactly.
How is this impacting your life?
Yeah, it's about fostering open and honest conversations, about encouraging people to reflect on their own experiences and make informed choices.
It seems like the key here is awareness.
Yeah. I think awareness is crucial.
Being aware of, like, the potential benefits and risks.
Right.
Being aware of our own needs and motivations and, like, being aware of the boundaries between the virtual and the real.
You hit the nail on the head, and that awareness is crucial as AI becomes more and more sophisticated.
Right, because we're just scratching the surface here.
Yeah.
As AI evolves, these chatbots are only going to become more advanced, more nuanced, more capable of simulating human interaction.
Exactly. And as that happens, these ethical questions we're discussing are going to become even more complex, even more urgent.
So what does this mean for the future of therapy?
Yeah.
Are therapists going to be replaced by bots?
That's the question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's about replacement.
Okay.
I think it's about adaptation.
Okay.
It's about understanding how this technology fits into the evolving landscape of mental health.
So therapists will need to incorporate this new technology into their practice.
It's certainly something they'll need to be aware of and to engage with thoughtfully.
Okay.
But I see it more as a potential tool, a complement to traditional therapy rather than a replacement.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like any new technology.
Right.
It has the potential to be used for good or for ill.
Absolutely.
It's up to us as a society to figure out how to integrate it in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. And that requires open dialogue, thoughtful consideration, and ongoing research. We need to stay informed, stay engaged, and stay curious.
Well, speaking of staying curious, one thing that's been really striking me throughout this conversation is how much our relationship with AI mirrors our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah. That's a fascinating observation.
What do you mean by that? Well, we've been talking about how we project our feelings and desires onto these chatbots, right?
Right.
But isn't that something we do with ourselves all the time? We create stories about who we are.
Yeah.
About what we want, about what we're capable of.
That's true. We're constantly shaping and reshaping our own self-image.
Exactly. So in a way, these chatbots are like mirrors.
Okay.
reflecting back to us our own hopes, our own fears, our own desires.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
And it highlights the potential for these technologies to help us learn more about ourselves.
Right.
If we pay attention to how we interact with these AI companions, what we're drawn to, what we resist, it can provide valuable insights into our own inner workings.
That's a really intriguing idea. It's like therapy for our relationship with technology.
Okay.
Which in turn can become therapy for our relationship with ourselves.
It's a fascinating feedback loop.
It is.
And it brings us back to that core question we started with.
Okay.
What does it mean to be human in a world where AI is increasingly becoming a part of our lives?
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
And I don't think there's a simple answer.
Right.
But maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about finding the answers, but about asking the right questions.
I think you're right.
About staying open to the possibilities, and about recognizing that our understanding of ourselves, of technology, and what it means to connect is constantly evolving.
Beautifully said. And as we delve deeper into this world of AI companions, it's that openness, that willingness to embrace complexity and nuance that will guide us toward a more meaningful and beneficial integration of these technologies into our lives.
This has been an incredibly thought-provoking conversation. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this topic.
There's always more to explore, isn't there?
Always.
But for now, I think we need to wrap up this deep dive.
You're right. It's time to leave our listeners with a final thought to ponder.
Okay.
All right.
So, to our listeners, we leave you with this.
Okay.
As AI continues to evolve at this unprecedented pace, how will our understanding of companionship therapy and even what it means to be human continue to evolve alongside it?
What a thought-provoking question.
It is.
I think we'll all be grappling with that one for years to come.
I think you're right, but the journey is just beginning, and it's a journey worth taking.
Thanks to all of you for joining us on Science Exposed.
Yes, thank you.
And remember, as always, stay curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is incredible to think about how quickly things are changing.
It is.
And as these AI companions become more sophisticated, more lifelike, are we going to see more stories like Julie's?
It's a good question.
More people finding solace and connection in these unexpected places?
I think it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And it challenges us to really examine what we value in our relationships, what we're seeking from connection.
Right.
Is it simply the exchange of information?
Right.
Is it emotional support?
Okay.
Is it a sense of belonging?
Those are some really important questions.
Yeah.
And I think those questions are going to become even more relevant as AI continues to evolve.
Right.
I mean, we've already seen how chatbots can mimic human conversation.
Yeah.
How they can learn and adapt to our individual preferences.
Right.
But what happens when they become even better at it?
Right.
What happens when they can anticipate our needs?
Yeah.
Offer us personalized advice? Even challenge our assumptions in ways that a human might?
That's when things get really interesting and perhaps a bit unsettling.
A little bit, yeah.
Because if we're already forming meaningful connections with these relatively simple chatbots, imagine the possibilities with more advanced AI.
It's almost like we're on the verge of a whole new era.
Yeah.
Of human-machine interaction, one where the lines between the real and the virtual become even more blurred.
It's a brave new world, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a world that's going to require us to rethink our assumptions.
Okay.
To expand our definition of what it means to connect, to relate, to belong.
It's exciting, but also a little bit daunting, isn't it?
It is.
Like, are we ready for this?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone has the answer right now.
Yeah.
But I think what's important is that we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
That we're engaging with these complex issues. And that we're approaching this new frontier with a mix of curiosity and caution.
I agree. It's all about finding that balance.
Yeah.
That sweet spot between embracing the possibilities of AI and being mindful of the potential risks.
Exactly. And that's where research ethics and open dialogue come into play.
Right.
We need to continue to study the impact of these technologies on our lives.
Okay.
To develop ethical guidelines for their development and use...
And to foster open and honest conversations about the challenges and opportunities they present.
It sounds like we've got our work cut out for us.
We do.
But I have to say, this deep dive into the world of AI chatbots has been absolutely fascinating.
I agree. It's a topic that really makes you think, that challenges your assumptions.
Yeah.
And that ultimately leaves you with more questions than answers.
But I think that's a good thing.
I do too.
Because as we've seen, the journey is often more important than the destination.
That's right.
And when it comes to AI, we're just at the beginning of an incredible journey of discovery.
Well said. And who knows where this journey will take us.
Right.
But one thing's for certain, it's a journey worth taking.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into AI chatbots.
It's been my pleasure.
And remember to share, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And be sure to check out the show notes for more ways to connect with us.
Absolutely.
I'm your host, and this has been Science Exposed.
Until next time.
Stay curious.